I'm Shiloh the Super Gecko voicing for Minka. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Virtual Abilities IDRAC 2023. My name is Minka Angel, and yes, I'm tiny. Does anyone have a booster seat I can borrow? Like many of you here, I'm living with disability, which leads me to find Second Life. I've been here for 4 years now and learned that I can be whomever I want in here versus out there in the real world. Here, I don't have multiple sclerosis. Here, I don't have a wheelchair. And in fact, here, I have wings and can fly. I think I'm supposed to be posting this. Sorry. In here, I don't need $22,500 a month for just one of the medicines I need to take every week. That my insurance pays for me. In here, it never dawned on me there were conditions, diseases, illnesses with life-threatening outcomes untreated that weren't covered by people's insurance. That they were having to fight tooth and nail for basic life-saving care. I thought if you had insurance, you were good, and they would take care of you. I learned that I live in a sheltered box. I am one of the lucky ones. I never had to fight for the medicines and things I need to live and flourish. I now know that's not the case for a lot of us. I find it disturbing that my medicines cost more than a house a year, and I have access to it weekly. No questions, no arguments, and to find others with medicines that are extremely low cost in comparison, and they can't get them at all. It makes me very sad. So that's me, Princess Minka, one of the lucky ones. But I'm not why we're here today. Today's session is a topic that should never have to be fought for. But it was. So I would like to introduce you to someone who faced this, fought this, and won. Here is the amazing Judy Mittag to tell us about her battle with her insurance company and then taking that fight to Congress to bring about changes. Welcome.
Okay. Can everybody hear me all right? Sound check. All right, good. Thank you, Minka and Shyla. That was a wonderful and touching introduction. I mentioned when I came in and one of the greeters said this, I told them I was going to sit down and collect myself because this would be the first time I have come out in Second Life. I've been here a resident for 6 years, but I've always kept that other part of me kind of hidden because there was nothing I could do about it. It has been just shy of 12, 13 years now that came by until I got the email with this announcement. It was December 27th, 2022 when I got it. And it simply said we did it. What that meant was, for me, 12 years of fighting and battling and emailing and phoning and scheming, yeah. And that of hundreds and a few thousand others in the United States. We had won our battle. And along the way, we lost friends. And we found people didn't really believe us because this was America. Everybody can get help. Well, that all depends on how you need help. If you need help and Medicare guidelines say that you're recognized, then all the other insurance companies recognize you. In America, Medicare only recognized, when the law was drafted, they only recognized people who got lymphedema from cancer. That was kind of scary because 90% of the people with lymphedema didn't get theirs from cancer. We didn't get ours from cancer. We got ours through secondary means, and it's called acquiring it. There are a lot of reasons that we acquire our cancer, our lymphedema. It can be as simple as a gallbladder operation. But the problem was 90% of us in America could not get even a doctor's appointment after, when we were diagnosed with lymphedema and we were told what we needed. It wasn't there for us because we didn't get ours from cancer. It is a scary thing, and thank you, Mook, for the empathy. And the reason it was really scary was because we couldn't have any corporate volunteers. We couldn't get any funding. I'm going to take a moment here and tell you just how we got started on this, because it's significant. I won't dwell a whole lot on the project later on if you all want to know how we did it. In case you're working in an advocacy position, I'd be happy to tell you some of the tricks of the trade when you're battling for something that nobody thinks you need. But to begin with, our movement was incubated in South Carolina when a fearless, brilliant mama bear who became the founder and continuing executive director, her name was Heather Ferguson, gave birth to twin boys. One of them was born with full body primary lymphedema. She was amazed. She couldn't get the help she needed. She was fortunate in that she was able to go to Europe and get care there. But the rest of us couldn't really do that. Along the way, she met a lot of people and realized how many people could not even get reimbursed for a vital doctor's appointment. We couldn't get our supplies, which basically are what they use in the sports field. We couldn't get any services, which are special therapists who are trained to do lymphatic massage, lymph massage. And this is the only thing we can do to stay alive. And I literally mean stay alive, because lymphedema, if it's not taken care of, is fatal. She formed some people when she came back. She explored who had it in America. She put a little patch together in South Carolina, and she had it made legal in Carolina in 2006. And then she began to organize people from across the United States. They got together and they formed the Lymphedema Treatment Act. And the decision was what she did in South Carolina, we were going to do across America. We were going to take on Medicare. We were going to take on the U.S. Congress. So, yeah, it was a little scary. However, we had a great leader. Heather is still with us. Two people along the way from the original core executive board have died since. They couldn't quite make it. I wasn't diagnosed until 2011. I was one of the lucky ones. The contributions that I made to the company I worked for were significant enough that they told the insurance company to take care of me. So I got started okay. But then, like many people who are diagnosed with secondary, and mine by the time I was diagnosed was advanced stage 2, lower body bilateral. That's kind of dangerous because stage 3 usually lends to terminal. And here I am already advanced stage 2. However, you can't really go back and do it over again. There's nothing you can do to fix it. It's done. So you just get on board and ride the train all the way to the station. Just for curiosity's sake, do I have any kindred lymphies present here at the Sojourner Journal Auditorium? Stand up if you are. Okay, that gives me a good idea of where I need to talk. I don't want to spend too much time talking about the history or me personally. I'll answer those questions, of course. I want to get through this law because even if you don't have lymphedema, you could save someone's life. If you learn a little bit about it, know where the website is, the pieces of the tools that we give you to recognize it, you could help somebody who doesn't know they have lymphedema. Because unless they have cancer, their doctors, like mine, are not looking for it. They're not even required to know how to look for it, not in the U.S. But maybe you will see that in someone you know, a family member, somebody at work, whatever. If you know, you can share it with them. They can get the tools they need. Now that it's a law, they can get the tools that they need, and they can follow through the way I'm going to teach you here. They can follow through, and you may save that person's life. So, how did we get, what is it? I'm talking about lymphedema. We haven't even covered what it really is. It's a lot of things, actually. Uh-oh. Did that not? I am seeing that I'm not. It doesn't look. Okay, you see the next slide. Okay, I'm just not seeing it on my HUD. All right. You can read for yourself, but one of the things that I want to add to this brief description of what lymphedema is, imagine this is all over your body, or in my case, the bottom half from my rib cage down. Imagine a normal leg being the size of one leg being the size of a tree trunk of a 10-year-old pin oak tree. And I had 2 legs like that. And all my doctors would tell me was lose weight. I tried to tell them that when I started to gain this weight, I gained it from the toes up, and there was just no logic to that happening. But because doctors aren't required to know what lymphedema is unless they're in the oncology field, they just said work on losing weight. Problem is, if you have lymphedema and you start working out and eating and everything like you're going to lose weight without lymphedema, you will aggravate your lymphedema and make it worse. And that's what happened to me. I worked out and worked out and worked out until I was assigned size 4X from the waist down. It hurt to walk, it hurt to sit, it hurt to move. And then a doctor accidentally diagnosed me. I went in for a regular annual heart checkup, and she came in. My regular cardiologist wasn't there. I will remember this angel's name for the rest of my life, Dr. Parul Desai. And she looked at me, and she said, when did you get lymphedema? There's nothing in your file about it. And I said, I don't have lymphedema. I don't even know what it is. What I didn't know was Dr. Desai was a cardiologist who worked with oncologists. She said, came over the table and she said, what do you think, why do you think your legs are so big? And I started to cry and I said, I've done everything I can to lose weight. I really have. I'm down to 1,200 calories a day. I go every night to the gym and I just keep getting bigger and it just hurts and I don't know what to do. And Dr. Desai put her arm around my shoulders and she said, Judy, you're not fat. You're big. The difference is your bigness is lymphedema, and I would say very advanced. Now, I happen to know a specialist. We need to get you in as soon as possible. We can do the tests. Now, who's your PCP? I told her. She said, please call her. Say I asked her to give her a courtesy call to let her know what I'm going to do for you. I did. My PCP says, well, we're glad you're finally getting help. Oh, I wanted to scream. So anyway, Dr. Perul Desai saved my life because she knew everything, a lot of what I am going to try to share with you to maybe save someone else's life. We got busy. She got me in to see a very good lymphedema specialist. And I went through all the tests. There's tests. It only took a matter of 3 hours for me to be definitively diagnosed as, yes, I had lymphedema. Just 3 silly hours. That's all it took. And anybody could have ordered the test. There was nothing specialized about it. But doctors don't know about it until you're an oncologist, until you have cancer. People who have acquired secondary lymphedema make up 90% of the population of people with lymphedema in America. Only 10% of the people who have lymphedema are born with it. Now, of those with secondary lymphedema, granted, almost 70% are cancer-related. But that last 22%, in which I fall into, we were considered, until last year, we were considered not deserving of treatment for lymphedema, because you don't get lymphedema unless you have cancer, at least not in America. Although it was discovered, treatment and everything firmed up in Europe in the 50s. So that's the proportion of people. 20% of the thousands that have lymphedema in America were like me. We could not get treatment because we didn't have lymphedema that was recognized by the medical community. Okay, so we're going down that road. We know what it is. And by the way, there are a number of different types of lymphedema. They're not all just this. What you are reading on what is lymphedema, that is really, sorry, I meant to go back one. That is really just oh, darn it. I'm sorry, I've had internet issues and I thought they'd solved them all. Okay, we're going to soldier on here. Somebody throw a plushy animal at me if I'm out of sync. So this is everything that was going on, and then finally the Lymphedema Treatment Act became a federal law, and it becomes implemented, must be implemented January 1, 2024. Now, we all know here in America, if you've got coverage with Medicare, anything Medicare covers, all of the other insurance companies fall behind it, and they will cover you. But we've got to make them do that. We fought to get it to be made a law, to be treated equally under the law, to have the medical care, to get the supplies and services we needed to stay healthy, to survive. Now, people have got to learn how to make it work for them, and that's what we're going to do. next. So this is what we have here, is what is to what end these 13 years. Okay, like I said, a number have died along the way, and all of them were people like me who could not get treatment. They knew they had lymphedema, but they couldn't get the coverage. How expensive is the coverage? Oh, Mink, it's really tough to hear your medical charges. But for us, one pair of stockings is $500, and that's on sale. If it's not on sale, it's $800. Now that's just a pair of stockings for your legs. If you have lymphedema like the majority of us do in 2 legs, both limbs, I had to have compression on at night. I was only supposed to be uncompressed 2 hours a day. That was enough time to take a shower, change clothes, that kind of thing. Now, the night garments that I had to wear, how expensive is treatment? Treatment can't happen for somebody without cancer. Could not. Didn't used to be able to. After the doctor diagnoses, the treatment is done by a certified lymphedema therapist. And at that point, you're talking about lymphedema drainage, and that is right at $300 an hour, and they won't come to you because they know the insurance won't cover you. So you've got treatment out there. Even if you had the money, they won't come to you because they know you're not covered by any insurance in the U.S. So now those night garments I was talking about, they are $1,500 a leg for night garments. Like I said, I was lucky when I was initially diagnosed and 6 months in rehabilitation to be able to walk around normally again. I had an insurance company, as long as I could work, that would help me with the expenses. All I had to do was pay that silly 20%. The problem with that then is that how do you get going if you lose your job? I had to leave work finally. There wasn't any way I could continue working. I just took a deep breath, and I had to learn what others were doing and try to do the best that I could with what I had. Problem with stockings, the day stockings, is they lose their compression factor, and you have to replace them about every 3 months. Night garments don't have to be replaced but every 6 months. But then you have the in-between. I learned how to do my own lymphatic drainage massage, and for a long time I could do it. And then arthritis set in, which is not all that unusual. Rheumatoid arthritis is a complication of lymphedema, and it was very hard for me to continue doing it. So like the artists, you just figure out a way to get it done. You become very creative. And I did a lot of sitting because unless I had the money for stockings, I couldn't exercise. The best treatment for lymphedema in your legs or in any limb really is to exercise it. But you shouldn't exercise it unless you're wearing the compression garment, the appropriate compression garment. So I just had to figure out ways around it. I remember the first time I met Wisdom Seeker here in Second Life. While we were talking, my alarm went off. And she said, do you need to get that? I said, no, it's an alarm. I can set a 50-minute pause on it. I need to stop every hour and spend 5 minutes on my elliptical. That's how I managed, because 5 minutes on my elliptical really gave me a good workout. And yet I didn't have stockings, so I couldn't do it for long. So every hour, hour and a half, I would go spend 5 minutes on my elliptical. And she was quite surprised. Somebody would set an alarm to go get on their elliptical. I knew what would happen if I didn't. When you're advanced stage 2, you're only a hiccup away from stage 3. Stage 3 is where the end stages of the disease take over. With this, I guess the hardest part was knowing that everybody who had a doctor who could recognize it would probably get a complete reversal. That's the tragedy, one of the tragedies of lymphedema. If your doctor diagnoses you during stage between 0 and 1, you have a 100% chance of reversing the disease. Reverse it. However, once you pass stage 1, there's very little hope for you to have a reversal. So here's all this time going by when it could have been diagnosed and you could have 100% recovery at no cost. There's no medicine for lymphedema. There's only lots and lots of supplies that athletes use and surgeons use in the surgery, wrapping your legs, compressing your legs. It's a process. Unfortunately, not a prescription, which is why we were doing this, mounting this challenge. We couldn't get any funding because nobody in America would benefit from it. There was no pharmaceuticals to sell. There was nothing special to sell. It was already being sold to athletes. They were already using in surgical rooms, so they couldn't see any profit margin in helping us do this. It changed along the way over the last 12 years. It did change. Now, getting into the teaching part, are there any questions before I get into that part? Because now we're going to get into pay attention and learn, and there will be a test. So if anybody wants to ask any questions about this brief introduction, I'll be happy to take them now. If not, we're going to go forward. And we're going to start learning. Like the title of my program is, it's Get Ready, Get Set, File. The first part of getting ready is to know where to find out what you need to know. Oops, am I missing something? Okay, I missed that one. All right. My daily routine. Wow. My daily routine means I miss a lot. My daily routine starts with 2 hours of physical therapy. That will never change. That's why I have to say no to everything that happens in the morning, because you don't break that routine. It is so dull. It is such a, exercise is dull for anything. Physical therapy is even harder because you're just doing it over and over again, and you're not getting any better, but you remind yourself you're also not getting any worse. And I do that routine. There are certain things that I steer away from because it can aggravate lymphedema. There are medications that I take that would be given to me because of my cardiac condition that I can't take because of my lymphedema. So it's staying on top of everything that is going on in my medical life and being the CEO of my destiny. Yeah. And the first part of getting ready is knowing you've got it. And that's why some of you may be able to spot somebody who doesn't know they have it. It's really rough because I remember being, well, now we call it body shaming, by a doctor before I knew I had lymphedema. And it just happened 4 weeks ago. It's everybody's going through it. I asked her, I just said, okay, doctor, do you know about lymphedema? I really don't care about lymphedema. And she was one of the well-regarded neurologists in the area. And I said, okay. My son had come with me because this was my first meeting with her. And he just looked at me and he shook his head no. And I finished the interview very, I must say, cold shoulder. And at the end of it, she said, well, I don't know if you're going to follow through or not. And I said, let me help you understand that. I had written the address of the lymphedema-treatment-act.org. And I handed it to her. I said, you call me when you've gone there and you've learned what lymphedema is. And then you tell me you're sorry that you told me I just needed to lose weight. And then maybe we will talk. I was tired of it. I mean, I've been going through this for 12 years. And when we left the office, my son said, Mom, I really don't want you to see her. She's going to resent this. I said, yeah, but maybe the next person will. Maybe the next person. Maybe the next person will get lucky with her. Thank you, Lauren. But after a while, you learn. You just have to grin and bear it. And that's what you do. And you try to figure out a way. I not only left her that, but I emailed her a copy of a couple of brochures that y'all can get, and I'll show you on that site where it's called Tools, the Tools tab there. And I either mail them to them, and then I don't do anything more. Because you can lead a horse to water, you can give the information to the doctor, and if they don't care enough to read it, I don't need them as my doctor. Deb, I hope that if there's anything she needs, tell her about me. I'm happy to help her find it. Yeah, but this is what it has been for people who don't have cancer. The oncologist, like I say, that was a cardiologist who worked with oncologists who saved my life. And who knows, you might influence them. So let's get busy. Sorry, I got distracted. You're a very easy group to talk to, and I'll share with you. This is my first time of being this open in Second Life. I'm used to doing it in First Life, but this is the first time I have come out of the closet in Second Life. It's a little scary, but you guys are so nice. Thank you. You make it very easy to talk about it. And I'm glad to hear that we've already got somebody we can get to. Oh, Sassy, I use it in a lot of different ways. Okay, now, this is a URL. Now, those of you who don't have it, keep track of this. Like I say, you'll see the symptoms. We'll cover them here shortly. You'll see the symptoms in somebody else. Ask them if they have lymphedema. Be tactful, of course, but you'll figure it out. You'll know them well enough to do it. It might be a loved one who has been laid up for a long time, and they just think they're fat, like I did. So this URL will take you to the front page of the Lymphedema Treatment Act group. And you'll see this nav panel that's up here on the slide. You'll see that navigation panel. And here's what you're going to do with it. You're going to learn. First of all, you're going to go to frequently asked questions. We'll go over those in a minute, and that's audience participation, so I'll start paying attention. You're going to learn on this website how you can recognize and help other people recognize it. Then we're going to go through those facts, and we're going to look at the tools. There's 2 brochures. You can actually print them out on the printer at home if you want to. And then we will get to the last one when we get to the get set part. Right now, we're just getting ready to tackle it, to leverage this new law so that everyone is getting treated equally under the law. Everyone can get the services, the doctor's attention, the supplies, and everything that they need. And oh boy, howdy, is my cardiologist cheering for me to make it to January 1, where I can get my first stockings. He has been cheering me on. And I want to thank him. Bless you, Dr. Joe. He just keeps going there with me. And I need that. I need those stockings. And it will really help my heart a whole lot. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay. Now, first of all, as I said, when you go to that, go there, you'll see this same navigational panel. It is a very robust site full of information. And anybody you need, just tell them about it. However you like to share that information. So we're going to go ahead and go forward now. First thing that we need to know in your learning is it's about 67 pages. Instead, there is an audience participation. Have you all gotten your a note card? Has the note card gone out? Because it's really, there's a lot of information, but it can be condensed to some simple basic FAQs. And if we do it this way, okay, as you're getting your note card, glance at it and looking at the topics, and I'll respond with the complete answer. Sometimes it's 4 or 5. It just wouldn't fit on it. But this will give you some basic information, what you're curious about. I don't want to just give you the whole list. I want you to tell me what you'd like to know about. So those are the topics, and I'll give you a little bit more of what's behind it. I think Sky, Sky has got them. If you're looking at them now, while you're looking at them and deciding what you'd like to know more about, my very favorites is number 4, will the LTA cover patients with primary lymphedema and non-cancer related lymphedema? Big answer is yes. I think I said that half a dozen times already, but yeah, the big answer is yes. The bill law makes no distinction, regarding the cause of the lymphedema. And not everybody's on Medicare. Remember, in America, all the insurance companies overwhelmingly follow what Medicare covers. Which one between the 4 and the number 6 is most important? Oh, yeah. Number 4 and number 6 are the most important to me. Those are my favorites, okay? Because it means I can get help now. Come January 1, I have done the next things that we're going to do in the Get Set. I've done them all. I've got my diagnosis. I've got all my paperwork done. I'm ready to go. Come January 1, well, it'll probably be January 2nd because nobody's in the office on January 1. Come January 2nd, I am submitting my first claim. In the meantime, though, let's get people here, your friends or whoever needs to know what they can do. So has everybody looked at the topics that are on that page, on that note card that you got sent out? Is there any one particular topic you're curious about? Because I don't want to go through all of them. I'd rather just go through the ones that you are curious about. What coverage for other items currently not covered? Okay, on that one, that's number 13. Oh, my scroller is going so slow. Here we go. Here's 13. Okay. Other items not currently, such as surgery. Okay. These items that are not currently covered, the surgery things, the custom shoes and that, those are already covered under DME and other parts of surgical procedures and disability shoes and that, that's already covered. So if you've got a prescription requiring those, anything that has to do with surgery, custom shoes, your doctor's office, we're going to get to how you can put that letter to them so that they know to look, to file with Medicare under this new act. They can file that for you, whoever is doing this. If it's Medicare, your doctor will file the Medicare form. We're going to cover that one simple little letter that you can write to let everybody know about it. So that is, it's all the other things that we're going to go to in just a moment that have never been covered before. And those particular things are covered. It didn't have to be included in the LTA. So that was a good thing. Although you had to have a prescription to get them, and if you had lymphedema not from cancer, you could not get a prescription. So now I can get a prescription for it. But the LTA law can't take credit for that other than now a doctor that isn't an oncologist can give me a prescription. And my diagnosis, which is also required, can stand to prove that I do have lymphedema. Right. Okay. If you have one, please kick it in if you see another question you'd like to know more about. You've got some slides here that cover some of them, and I'm happy to take questions about any others. And also happy to get emails and note cards later on should you come across somebody that you're kind of thinking about now in the back of your mind that you think you might be able to help. Here's a big question. It's covered several ones like lymphedema. Oh yes, RL can do a whole bunch of stuff. These are the things that took the Lymphedema Act to get it there for those of us who didn't have cancer. These are all those things, and this comes under about 4 or 5 questions there on that FAQ sheet. Anything to do with what will be covered. These are the bandaging, all of the compression wraps, the adjustable straps. These are all the things. This is the only way we can treat our lymphedema. There's no medicine or anything else that can fix our lymphedema. Even after you've experienced a reversal, if you were lucky enough to be diagnosed early enough by a doctor who was on his toes, you will still be standing watch. You will still be very careful. You will still be very conscientious. I don't personally know of anybody who had a reversal that ever relapsed. But all my friends who've had that reversal, they've told me they have to stay vigilant. Now this is how frequently we get them with the new law. Remember I mentioned the daytime garments? Well, thank God they won't cost me $800 a pair anymore. We get 3 sets every 6 months, which is a good thing. Now, custom fit or a combination of both, that all depends on your diagnosis. But that 3 sets every 6 months is pretty good. If you're careful, you can make your stockings last for 3 sets. For 6 months. That means you're using a set every couple of months. That's not ideal, and the 6 months, 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 you can manage more on your own. And at least now I could, if I had that budget. But also I've heard people say on that website that I gave you, you would look into those questions, those FAQs, and people have reported that no, they actually are able to provide evidence, okay, it got tore, and get another replacement one. Nighttime garments, you get 2 sets every 2 years. Again, it's not ideal, but it is better than nothing. Bandage supplies, this is what's good. There's no set limit in the rule. Bandaging supplies are horrific. They are 4 layers. And I once measured what I had to wrap myself for the first 3 months in rehab, because they had to compress me down to normal size. Remember I said I was a 4X from the waist down? Legs like tree trunks? You use 4 layers of different media to bandage your legs or your arm, wherever you need to do it, your midriff, whatever. And wow, I measured it, and with all 4 layers, it was 900 feet on each leg. 900 feet on each leg when I finished bandaging. The first layer is a thin gauze. It's a surgical gauze. You had to wrap each toe a certain way, and then you take that thin gauze up your foot. Must be wrapped in a certain direction at a certain angle, up your foot, around your ankle, up the leg. For me, I had to go all the way up to the top of my thigh. Okay, that's the gauze. Now you come back and you've got surgical cotton. You do the same thing with the surgical cotton. And it has to go at a certain slant in a certain direction. That's why it's not just wrapped around. That's why it gets to be so much yardage. Then after the surgical cotton, then it is short stretch, ace bandaging type thing. And in the meantime, you're doing each toe individually. And the short stretch bandaging is 4 different widths. It took me an hour and a half to wrap my legs. It took me 30 minutes to unwrap them. And then you have to roll each one up individually. And when you wash them, they're washed a certain way. You cannot put them in the dryer. You have to lay them out, which means my living room and my bathroom were covered with bandaging. Of course, the only thing you watched was the short stretch bandaging. You didn't wash the surgical cotton or surgical gauze. But my house was always covered with short stretch bandaging. And it takes overnight for them to dry. And you had to have 2 sets. You wore one day, wore one the next day. So you were always, for the first year, you were always bandaging, unbandaging, washing, and drying. And it was very hard for me to work at the same time, but I had to continue working to keep my insurance. So I would start 2 hours earlier before I had to be in work so that I could get my legs bandaged. Once I recovered to where I could put on stockings, and these were prescription stockings, custom-made ones. In the beginning, you're going to do custom-made ones. Those would take me about close to 30 minutes to put on. And they're very painful in the beginning, very painful. And you just grin and bear it. And it would take me about 15 minutes to take them off. It takes you about 3 months to get used to the pain. And you just tell yourself, I'm getting better. I'm going to live. That's what I would tell myself. That's okay. I'm going to live. And I would get mad. And then I would change doctors, and I would have to explain everything all over to them. And you just, you kind of stay mad because you've got to fight. And then I would kick in on the campaign, whatever I could. The first few years, I would go to D.C. I would go to lobby days, and anybody later on who wants to understand, if you're involved in something and you'd like to understand how you lobby something to get it made a law when you don't have anybody on your side, because none of the PACs are interested in supporting you, I'd be happy to share with you with that. Some of it is kind of strategic. For the first few years, I went to the staff briefings, and it was always down in a basement building, and I would meet the other people. I was their example for someone it should never have happened to. There was absolutely no reason I should have gotten lymphedema, that I should have acquired my lymphedema. So that was why I always went along. And then there was a teenager who was born with it, and there was this young man. It was so hard to hear him. We would get up in front of the staffers, and there was sometimes senators and representatives, whoever. The room was always full because there was always curiosity about, what is this lymphedema that we're discriminating against people who are sick in America? I had it easy, I thought. This one young man was about, I think he was 24, 25 years old. And when he came in, it looked like he needed a sling to carry his belly. I don't know where he got his courage. If I were him, I don't know if I could have done it. And it did. It looked like he had a sling carrying his belly. And he was standing up there and he was explaining that he had had certain surgery and then things happened. And as a result, he now has lymphedema. And he said, before I tell you what kind of lymphedema I have, you probably think I should just lose a lot of weight and get rid of this belly. And he paused. And see, after the first time I heard this, I knew what was coming. I still cried every time for this young man. And he said, I'm not fat. This is not my belly. I have testicular lymphedema. These are my testes. Everybody in the room, especially the men, looked down at the floor. This young man was proud. He wasn't afraid. And he let everybody stare at him. Like I said, my story was a lot easier to tell than his. So we always had 7 of us that went to the staff briefings every other year when there was a full, both the Senate and the House were meeting. And then I got to where I couldn't travel anymore. That happens to people who have full-on lymphedema in their lower body. We can't travel anymore. I barely leave my house. But I took a note from one of the original board members who lived in Chicago. A beautiful woman. She did not make the journey all the way. By the time she was diagnosed, she could not travel at all, so she stayed in Chicago, and she worked remotely. Now, she happened to know the senator and the representatives. She was already politically involved, so that was what she used. She used those political connections. And I listened to her reports. Let's see, what was her name? I'm trying to remember her name. Louise Timon. And the sad part was she had primary lymphedema. She could have lived, but because she had primary lymphedema, she wasn't seeing anybody who would recognize her lymphedema. And she suffered for years before somebody finally, like me, accidentally diagnosed her. So she didn't make the full journey. She died before it was completed. But I looked at how she had helped in Illinois. And I thought, hey, I know the ins and outs of DC. I was on the Goal 2000 Educate America, the National Skills Standards Board for Academia, for a few years. I learned my way around DC. I know my way around our state legislature. I know how to find out things. So I decided that I could take what Lois had done. I could take it one step further. So I would watch as everything came out. And I would see who was having trouble with their senator or their representatives from their state, getting them on their side. I won't go into detail, but this is just a tip. Anybody who wants the detail, happy to give it to you. I would do the research on the staffers because of the way offices work. I would find the staffer that was going to be handling this part for that senator or that representative. I would find a common denominator, and I would contact that state where they were having trouble getting that representative or senator to sign on. And I'd say, okay, here's some common denominators for his staffer who's going to handle this recommendation to him. If you don't know it already, the staffers give a lot of opinions to the senators and representatives. And I said, if you've got anybody in your team, in your state who can do this, jump on it. She's got some real good stuff in her profile at that university site. Usually it was a university, but there were a lot of other things that you could do. And that's what I did. Only one senator defeated me. Oh, I was so mad. I succeeded for so many, and everybody would say, it worked, it worked. I got an appointment to talk to him, you know. One of my own senators, not my senator, one of the senators from Texas, didn't give a darn. I had good leverage. And it went, well, where I thought it would go. I couldn't make it work. It could not work. And I see I've already talked way over it. I apologize, people. I would be happy to send a set of these slides if somebody would, you know, drop a note card to me. And all of the information as this gets said is important, but since none of you are Lymphies, you won't be doing this, so you'll have time to look at this. And you can get, we have made templates for this so that you can do it the easiest. And pass it along to people. There's nothing on my slides or on the website that is copyrighted. You don't have to worry about it. And thank you so much for your kind attention, really kind. Once I got started, it was easy to talk about it after all. You're not so scary. You're really very nice. Thank you so much. And let me get out of the way now for the next program that I get to watch. And then they forget to feed you? Okay. Oh, yes, thank you for the reminder. Oops, wait, I've got to go back there. Sorry, forgot how to do it.